All right. And it seems that we're live. We have a good connection. Let me switch over to this part. Refresh the page here. And we're live. All right. Hello to everybody that's watching and is stuck inside with the coronavirus and social distancing and all that stuff. Welcome to a live that we're gonna have here. Just get our minds away from all this craziness that goes on into the world. Kharkov. So I missed the chat. I'm just looking at the YouTube chat as well. So welcome everybody. What we're gonna try to do is get our minds away from the madness and try and contribute a little bit to Phalcon in order to get things sorted out. So coding with us. Any questions that you might have, throw them in the chat. I'll try and answer as much as I can. So we're gonna have a few more of these, just to build up a little bit more rapport with a community, and to just get everybody acquainted, or get everybody more comfortable with contributing to an open source project if you haven't done that already. Hello to Alexander, hello to Mike, Holdige, hello Oleg, Gamersma, hello to everybody. Mike, well, oh yeah, I said that, Mike. So welcome everybody. I haven't prepared any slides on this. This is just completely free format. We're gonna pretty much try and maybe write some tests for Phalcon, and I can show you how I do it. And then you guys can figure out your own little workflow, how you can program, how you can find a bug or write something or anything like that. So again, free format. Ruud and I were talking about starting these series, and we're gonna have another hangout on Saturday, just to get everybody together. But we were thinking of creating a small series of hangouts where we build something together, all of us. So whether this is going to be an API, an application, something anyway, and we can have that as a resource for everybody to watch. Okay, so pretty much the most important thing is for you guys to clone the repository. Right, so information about how to clone the repository is readily available. I'm not going to do it for you right now. And the easiest way that you can do something, you can actually get an environment set up so you can run the tests and write some tests or run the tests. You can do it either with Nanobox or with Docker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit this one, because that's my other project, and then I'm gonna go into the Phalcon folder. So I'm just gonna do a fetch to get everything from the source repository of the Phalcon repository. I'm working on my fork on the Needen one. Hi Holdike, it's nice to hear that you're writing tests. Excellent, tests are always good. So we got everything from up there. What did I do here? Add asset by type syst. All right. Well, I'm gonna remove that. So we have this branch over here, right? which is the 4.0. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and write a test. I got a list here, as you can see. These are all the unit tests that we have skipped everywhere, right? And pretty much we either did not have time to write tests for those, or we neglected it. I mean, it is what it is. What we did with version 4, for those that do not remember, is we wrote a little program that would go through every class there is, every namespace there is from Phalcon, and pick up every single method that exists, every public method that exists in the framework, and each namespace, each component, and it would create a file with a test file, and it will have, you know, a description just like the one that you see here, and it will mark that test as skipped, right? So in the end, we ended up with hundreds and hundreds of files, right? We would actually move that code, move that test into that new file, right? And to give you an idea, let's say, since we were talking about unit tests, so the request started creating, the script started creating, you know, the auth header, right? And then there was the constructor, and then there was the get acceptable content. These are all methods inside the component, right? So if I open this, you're going to see somewhere I create the request here, and then I'm calling this method. So get acceptable content is the get acceptable content test. So it's one file, one test, one method, and you can have many assertions on that. So what we did is we actually moved all the tests into the little small classes. And the reason we did this is we want to make sure that we cover as much of the framework as possible with tests. All right. Now we have a lot of tests that are missing, that we haven't finished. We are also rewriting the whole database tests, and kudos to Jeremy Pastouret, or Pastouret. I don't know, he's French. He's the Frenchie, as we call him, lovingly. He actually helped us a lot with enabling our testing suite to run now with Postgres. And what we're doing is slowly we're moving more and more of our tests from the database side that we used to have it to the new format, and we're making sure that they run both on SQLite, on MySQL, and with Postgres. And this one, as we keep on going and going and going, it will start reducing any problems that we might have with regards to the testing suite, and it will allow us to identify errors faster. Okay. So these are all the little classes that you see here. So get URI, get uploaded file, and so on and so forth. So what I did earlier is I just run the test suite, only the unit tests, and I picked up only the skipped ones. So for instance, let's go to one of them. Let's go to the something that is easy. Should we do the image? Well, why not? Maybe. I don't know much about images, so I gotta find something easy to write tests with. Test for rather. All right, let's go to the assets manager. That one is a relatively easy one, and we can test that. So you see here it says add. Let me just bring this down a little bit. Add asset by type sest, and it's in the assets manager. Okay, so we go up here. And then we open the assets, and then it's manager. So it follows assets and then manager, and then it's the add assets by type. So if we open this file, you see that it says skip test, I need implementation. And we generated this file in 2018 in November. And then if you open another one, the add assets has something in here, right? So all these skip tests are things that we never run. Okay. Now, the easiest way for you guys to run the tests and create an environment is if you have Nanobox. It's nanobox.io. In a recent post, I actually put instructions there on where to find the installers and where to do all these things. For Nanobox, very briefly, you will need to create an account with nanobox.io, but you don't need anything else. You need the account only to log in, because it won't allow you to do anything unless you log in of some sorts. But after that, there's nothing, no payment, nothing to do. I already have Nanobox here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go to the repository. Let's get here, and I need to find the name or the number of the issue, which outlines the unit tests. There you go, this one. It's the one at the very top. Okay, so you see on this issue it says that we need to refactor quite a few things. Actually, maybe I can do something about this. Maybe I can shrink it just a little bit, because I wrote 100 and some tests the other day with regards to the HTTP request. Alright, so the get active mode is done. You can remove that. Manager events, filter, HTTP refactor cookie. Alright, so request. I'm pretty sure I did all these guys. There's only one test that I didn't do, the move to. Yep, I've done all these guys. And then get rid of this, and then the only one that I have is the move to. And I know because this one was giving me a lot of grief. Alright, so let me update the content here, and should be okay in a minute. There you go. So we have this number here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a branch. So T and then the number, tests, Hangout, right? And then I'm gonna check out to that, and then I'm gonna push it upstream so that I have it there. There you go. All right, and also as Anton said, hello Anton, you can also use Docker to run your tests. You don't have to use Nanobox. Personally, I like Nanobox. I also have my own environment here set up to run the tests straight from. I can compile Phalcon on the spot, and then I run the tests. So it's not very difficult. There's plenty of instructions. And sorry guys about the printer going in the background. I do have 3 little kiddos, and they're going nuts by not going to school. So mommy's trying to print out documents and all that, try to get them to do some homework and all that stuff. Okay. So that's why you hear the printer in the background. Hey Anton, hi. So alright, I'm now in the test hangout branch, so I haven't done anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing this, right? So I do a nanobox run, and what this will do is it will come over here. Let me show you real quick. It will come and it will actually read this file, the boxfile.yml. And if you're looking for this file, it is located under tests, and then CI, was it? Yeah, there you go. So CI Nanobox, and in here you have one for 7.2 and one for 7.3. I would suggest you do the 7.3 one because it's closer to the supported versions of Phalcon. Soon we're gonna put a 7.4 in there. So once I do nanobox run, it's gonna start running the environment. And of course, this one says it's the first run. I haven't done this in a while. I've cleaned my system up, so it is gonna take a little bit of time for this thing to run. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna use Docker in the back end, and it's gonna create tiny little containers that will have everything that you need. So in this case, it will create a container that has PHP 7.3. It will have all these extensions for you because that's what Phalcon needs to run. It will have some additional things here. I don't know why I put the free type and the free fonts, but you know, don't judge me. Then it's gonna compile the PSR extension, which is required. It's gonna compile the MSG pack, and then it's gonna compile the Zephyr parser. It's going to do some little magic with the INI files, and then it's going to pick up Zephyr for you so that you can compile Phalcon right there on the spot. It will also give you access to a Redis, a Postgres, MySQL, Mongo, and Memcached containers so that you can access those if you want to. But for now, for this particular instance, we're doing unit tests, so we don't need to access any other database systems or anything like that. Okay, so as you see, it is still building. It's building my containers, and what's going to happen is once it does all these containers, right now it's doing the Memcached, this one here, and it should be doing the MySQL now. So this one, so it's two more, and then it's going to fire up on its own. So once this is done, you're going to end up in the environment of the Docker environment for Phalcon, and it will allow you to start running the tests the way you need to. Okay, so not long now, it should be done. All right, so we got into Nanobox here, right? So we got Zephyr here. Class far not found. Oh, yay. Didn't I install far with this? Hold on a second. Yeah, it's there. Okay, well, let's ignore this for now. I'll have to check why this thing comes up, but pretty much that's the idea of how you do, how you run Phalcon. For this experiment, I'm not gonna stay a lot more into Nanobox. We can have another hangout where we actually go and set everything up nicely and you know, giving everybody instructions. What we're going to do is we're going to use my own computer the way I've set it up. And for my computer here, I use PHP 7, 7.4 in particular. I have all the extensions that I need for Phalcon, but I don't have Phalcon enabled. And this allows me to compile Phalcon and run it, and then have all sorts of bits and pieces checking and all that stuff. Would you make a CR meanwhile it compiles? Man, this kid is just making me work. What's up with that? Is that the migrations one, Anton? Or hold on a sec. So let me do the CR for Anton, the pre-release. I think, is that the pre-release, Anton, or which one is it? Or is it the one for the docs, the migrations? Probably it's this one. Yeah, okay. So, in case you're wondering, this is what I'm looking at, where's my, this is what Anton is talking about in the chat. So we have some stuff changed here. All right, let me do this a little bit better. Okay, so here's how this thing works for those that haven't seen this, haven't known this this process. So Anton has a change that he wants, right? And Anton created something in his own branch. So he has forked. He has a copy of this repository, the Phalcon docs. Okay, he has a copy in his own computer. Probably he actually did it on this one, but it's all right. So what Anton does is he just clickety-click types and all that stuff. And then when the time comes, he says, okay, well, I want you guys to consider this as a contribution to the project. I want to change something, you know, I found a typo, or I want to add a test, as we said. So what he does is he issues what we call a pull request. He's trying to merge the changes that he did with the main repository. In this case, it's the documents repository. So he just sends the pull request, and one of the maintainers, which will be either Anton or Rud or myself or Sergey and all that stuff. What would happen is we're going to see this screen here, and you know, Anton has asked me to review this pull request. So what we do is we have, all right, well, he wants to change something. It's one commit. He changed something in one file. So what I do is I go here and click on the files changed and actually see what he did change, right? So the file is the DB migrations, the document. And then what he did here, we can see he actually changed the version. He made some changes here, tiny little things here. He added a list of existing migrations. Some more changes here. All right, timestamp based migration. Current purchase is useful when more than one developer is participating in database structure management. Use migrations ts based equals string config or also you need to specify the desker, which could be anything you want. For example, semantic version. Current command will produce this. Migrations will be executed from oldest to newest in case blah blah blah. All right, so I actually read what he said. All right, I have two minor comments. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to do a review of the code. So if everything is fine, I click on approve and then I merge it. But I want Anton to make a couple of changes. All right, so using the I want him to change the current approach. Right, so I'm just putting this comment here, and then I'm gonna start a review. So this one goes below there, and I'm actually there you go. Everybody can see okay? All right, let's wait for to get confirmation from the chat. All right, perfect. Way to go, guys. All right, so I got the green lights on OBS as well, so it's actually transferring 4K 4 kilobits per second, which is really 4 megabits per second, which is really good. So anyway, sorry about that technical difficulty, guys. I really apologize. So anyway, let me go back real quick so that you guys can understand what I did here. If I repeat myself, I apologize, but I don't really know exactly when this thing stopped. So what happened is Jackerson here created this pull request, and he wanted to change some things, right? So he sent the request and he said, hey guys, I want to add these things to you. So I'm just looking at it, I'm saying, all right, well, he changed the version of the migrations in this document and so on and so forth. And down here, the English was not 100%. You have to understand that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have seen this in the past. The programming world tends to be a little bit more on the English side, and the developers tend to be on the non-English side. So I'm a prime example. I'm from Greece, right? And I can see a lot of people here from Russia, Ukraine, basically Europe and East. So it is logical to not expect somebody to know perfect English, right? Which is normal, right? I mean, I don't know perfect English. So when I review personally these pull requests, I'm trying to make English, the English language on the documents as easy as possible. Simple words, very short sentences, and so on and so forth, which has two benefits. First of all, somebody could understand it better if it's extremely simple, but also you can copy and paste it on your translator, and you will get the message, right? So I'm looking at what Anton wrote, and I have a suggestion here that I would like him to change. And then at the bottom, he made a note here. So I kind of like didn't understand exactly what he was trying to address. So I just wrote a comment and said, okay, what do you mean by this? And then I clicked the button and I requested changes. Okay, so what would happen now is Anton will get an email from this, and the email will tell him, hey, Nikos did something and he requested some changes from you. So he will come over here and look at it, and he will say, all right, well, he asked me to change this, blah, blah, blah. So he will make that change, and then he will mark that comment as resolved. And then potentially down here, oh, there you go. All right, so here's the reply. So Anton just saw it. So yes, imagine when two of the migrations were executed first because it was merged earlier. So instead of checking only migrations that are after the last one, which was executed, it scans the previous. All right, so now I understand what he meant by this. Okay, so what I want to suggest is a little bit of a change in his text. So I will reply as follows. In that case, one of two migrations were because it was merged earlier. Instead of checking only migrations that are after the last one, it also scans previously. Okay. If hold on, how can we put this here a little bit better? One wasn't executed and was introduced after the next round executed without any problem. Okay. Whenever migrations are run, the application scans Alright, so I just wrote something as a comment to Anton. So And like I said, I'm trying to make this as easy as possible for people to understand. So I suggested the following: whenever migrations are run, the application scans all available migrations and their status, irrespective of their age. If one or more are not executed in a previous run, they will be executed in the next run. So makes it just this tiny bit easier for people to understand what is going on. So now I requested an additional change, or I communicated with the contributor, which is Anton in this case. And it doesn't matter if it's Anton, right? I mean, Anton can send me a message on Telegram or Discord. It might be a discussion that I or Rude or whoever would have with you, or some other maintainer if you're trying to contribute to an open source project. So it's this back and forth that helps us make the best project, the best open source project as possible. So there's two rules that I can tell you from open source projects. First of all, treat people the way you want them to treat you. All right, so be respectful, be polite. If you don't understand something, there's nothing wrong to say. Just say, "Hey, I didn't understand what you said," and you can ask a million times. It doesn't matter. Usually, open source project maintainers are very patient people that they're trying to help you, because at the end of the day, your work will help them. And the second thing is, because I come from a non-English environment, I try to use as simple English as possible in order to communicate with other people. All right. So if you remember those two things, you're going to be a rock star. Okay, so I asked for something from Anton. At some point, he's going to make some changes, and then he's going to ping me. It's probably going to come to my email. Let me see up here. From what I see, kind of like a second ago or something, he made some requests, some changes. So if I refresh here, you're going to see now he has 2 commits. And then if I click on the files, you're going to see, you see here where it says using this approach is useful when more than one developer is participating in the database structure management. So he made this change right now, a second ago. And then he's probably going to make this change too. And we're going to see. So once he does that, then I'm going to get another email saying that, hey, you know, Anton pushed something, and maybe he will ping me. So what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to look at it, and then I'm going to approve it and then merge it. And so that's the whole process of doing that. Okay, and once we do this, then we're going to flip over to the tests, which I started doing, but we didn't do it. Oh, there you go. GitHub says refresh. Da-da-da-da-da. There you go. Look at him. He is very fast, isn't he? And I just got the email. So he made the changes here. So I'm happy as a maintainer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on review changes again, and then approve this merge request, submit review. And what happens is right now we got 1 approval. It's okay if we don't have the other 2 guys looking at it. That's perfectly fine because this is documentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squash and merge and all that. And now this thing is part of our documentation. It actually changed. So this thing is rock and roll, Phalcon rollback implemented. So what I need to do now is actually update the documents. So if you're gonna see here, docs.phalcon.io, it's probably DB migrations, I think. So you're gonna see here that this is what this is what Anton changed, okay? And where was it? I think, didn't he? Wasn't it the DB migrations that changed? Yeah, ENDB migrations. So Phalcon 4.0.5. That's in the requirements. Where's the requirements? Here. All right, so this one says Phalcon 4.0.0, okay? Now, and this is a little bit for you guys to see our process, how it goes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open a new terminal, bring it over here, should have used that one, it doesn't matter. So I need to go to my folder. Alright, sorry about that. Coronavirus and all that. Lucky you guys are away. Alright, so this one is live. So I need to go to the 4.0. Do I get pull? And now, as you see, we had some migrations that were merged. Some translations that were merged. And you can see that because you have different countries here. So the HTTP response. And this ENDB migrations was what Anton just did. Okay. So this one is pulled down. So all I have to do is update the submodule. And now that I'm pushing upstream, what happens is we have Netlify. It's one of our sponsors that they sponsor the project. What they do is they monitor our GitHub. They know that we push something upstream. So what they're going to do is they're going to clone the repository down, get our static website, get all the migrations from 4.0. Get all the translations from 4.0, that branch that I showed you here. It's this branch over here, 4.0 in there, and then it will pick up all these files and we'll start building the site. So after a few minutes, you're gonna see all these things change. It's not gonna take that long. It's usually within the 5 minutes or something. It should change. So we should be able to see that pretty soon. Okay. So okay. Right. Let me pull this one up. There. Come on. Sorry, I got a million windows in front of me, so I just need to make sure that everything is in place. So okay. Let's go here. Now, I did mention to you guys about the Nanobox environment. You can do this with, you can start everything with Docker as well. If you are interested in Docker and you go to the tests folder here, the test folder, you're going to see this README inside the test folder. If you open it, it actually tells you how to set up your Docker environment, how to set up Nanobox. Okay, there's additional information, but with regards to this far thing, this error, I don't know why it came up, so it's okay. So what I have done is I've made a couple of scripts in order to help me produce stuff Phalcon. Oleg, I'm using the Brave browser. Interesting, why? Because Google used to have this motto, this slogan, "Don't be evil," right? And for some reason, the last few years, they kind of forgot that, and they are picking up a ton of private information from your browsing experience. So they will pick up all the sites you visit. They will pick up tracking information from the sites that you visit, and you don't even have to use Google. So if you use Google Analytics into this random blog that you visited, they will know who you are. All right. So I really don't want people to get my data without my consent, my okay. So what I do is I use Brave. It's fine. It's rock solid. And this is pretty much how many ad trackers it blocked, and it automatically updates you to HTTPS. And this is kind of like a marketing thing, 1.5 hours estimated time saved. So this fact here that it kind of like blocks all the trackers is something that I wanted. That's why I have Brave. Plus, if you see, I only have two plugins here. I don't have anything more. One of them is my password manager, and the other one is a debugger with Xdebug. So I use that one. Okay, so Firefox, I have different needs, right? So Firefox is for anything that I do for work. This way, one browser is only for work, and the other browser or browsers is for different things. I also have Vivaldi on it. As for my search engine, I used to use DuckDuckGo. I switched over to Start Engine. It's a personal choice. Start page, not Start Engine. This one here. That's what I usually use. I mean, it's fine. It works for me. So, and yeah, the browser separation is just for work and non-work. So if I'm on Chrome-ish, so either Brave or Vivaldi, I know it's not work. If I'm on Firefox, I know it's work. Okay, so I just ran my gen command, and what the gen command does is it goes and runs Zephyr generate, which will generate all the ext folder blah 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 for Phalcon, and then it will go into that ext folder and run the install command. It will build my my extension and will put it into the relevant folder. And then I have another command which I call run tests, and I can show you how what I do with this command if you want. Now, because I do not, let me just bring this a little bit in the middle so that you guys can see. Because I do not want to have Phalcon installed with my PHP, because I'm changing it, I'm programming in it, and I don't want it to give me wrong results. So I don't want it to be memory resident, if that makes sense. So my CLI and my Apache on my computer do not have Phalcon installed. So the question is, how do you run your tests? So a little thing that I got from my buddy Sergey is you can use the -d on PHP. So what I do is I do PHP -d, and then I say, okay, load the extension from my path here, the ext modules and Phalcon SO. So this one is the brand new SO file that has been compiled right now. I mean, you saw it flying and all that. And you saw it here. There you go. That part creates this file over here. All right. And then when I want to run the tests, I just run this. And then I run the codeception, and it just runs every test that I want with this version of Phalcon. If I make any changes in the ZEP files, the Zephyr files, then I can just run generate again, the gen command, and then I can run the tests here. So this way I make sure that any change that I make is reflected immediately in my tests. And sure thing, Oleg, happy to give you some insight on what I do. All right, so we said that we're gonna run the test. So let's see what do we have here. So if I run the test, and then I need to do run, let's say tests, unit, assets. All right, so it just run all the asset tests, and it says now we have 16 skipped, right? So if you scroll back up, you're gonna see, all right, you're gonna see a lot of green check marks. Keeps on going, looking good. A lot of green stuff. Everything is passed. We're happy. And then, oops, there you go. The add assets by type test. Remember, we have it here, and it says need implementation, right? So this one is skipped, yes, here. And then some other ones have been skipped. So we got 16 of those that have been skipped. So why not add something, right? Okay, so we need to add assets by type. So how how does that work? All right, so let's cheat a little bit. So first of all, let's change the date. So we got 19. Let's cheat a little bit and get a little bit of a setup from a different test. Okay, so let's say let's see, add CSS, right? So we're gonna copy these things, and we're just gonna paste them here. Okay, all right, so here we're testing the assets manager, and then add assets by type. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're doing add CSS. That's not the method that we want. Let's have a look. Oops, I did something. All right, there you go. Add assets by type. So it accepts a string and an asset. So it's gonna be string here, and then asset set here, right? So that's the signature, right? So let's create an asset. Let's say we want CSS equals new CSS, and then we're gonna need to put the path. So let's take this path. It's fine. Oops. All right, so this is my asset, my CSS file. So I'm gonna add it here. The question is, add by type. How would it add it, right? So if I do a CSS here, because you see here, down here, it says collection get CSS. So if I add this by type, actually I can make it a little bit simpler by just saying, I need you to add this. And then I need you to add the second one. So I'm gonna add these two. So I'm kind of like replicating what the other test did. So if I add them by type, I'm gonna add them in the it's the CSS type, right? And so what I need to make sure that if I run this test, I'm adding these two in the manager, in the assets manager. So if I run this test, it will come up here and we'll get the CSS collection, and then will it have two CSS files in there? It should. So let's run the test again. Oh, looky here, I got 15. So what do you know? Add assets by type. It actually executed, and executed just fine. So I just made a test very quickly, kind of like copy paste from something else before, which is fine. So all right, let's try something else. Let's try the easy things. So apparently the assets manager, the constructor, we don't have a test for that. All right, let's quickly do it. The constructor tests are kind of like boring because you're just making sure that you construct the same thing. But they're easy if your object implements interfaces. It's easy for you to ensure that you get the object back, and then that object implements the other interface. And as such, you ensure that if you make any changes in the future in the interfaces, it will actually be okay, right? So this is the test. Before we go, I just got a ping that the Phalcon documentation page is right. So you saw, taking a small break here, you saw that we merged the pull request. You saw that I pushed the code upstream, and now Netlify did its run, and it should have updated all the sites. So this DB migration should actually change. Voila, 4.0.5. Remember, that's what Anton changed, and then we should have a call out a little bit further down. There you go, timestamp based migrations. It's a brand new thing, and this is the call out that I was telling Anton I would like you to change something here and here, some text. So this is kind of like the process that we just did while we were talking here. There you go, there's your pull request, there's your contribution to the project. Why not do it? And the documentation contributions are the easiest ones to do. So anybody, if I can do it, you guys can do it too. So, all right, let's have a look here. So let's do the constructor, which is going to be a boring and easy test. So 0319, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a new manager. All right. And the first thing to do is assert instance of manager class equals class. Oops. And the question is here, what I was talking about, the interfaces. Oops, I didn't want to do this. Is my manager implementing a class or another class or another interface? So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I'm going to go and open my source and go to the assets folder and open the manager and have a look. Oh, there you go. It extends abstract injection aware, which the abstract injection aware is in here, which in turn implements the injection aware interface. So there's a couple of things that I can do as a test. So we can do assert instance of injection aware interface class assets. And now the first assertion, of course, is kind of like stupid because you just create a brand new object and then you're checking if the class that you used is exactly the same as the object. Well, duh, it's always going to be there. I make it a habit to keep that there. Because it allows you to look at the code. Yeah, I understand it's useless, right? It doesn't tell you anything. It tells you if one is one, but it allows me to expand more on this, and then introduce more checks with assert instance of in terms of their interfaces of every class. And as such, if ever I change, let's say, the assets manager to not implement the injection aware interface, then this test will fail and it will actually warn me and say, hey, did you want to do this, so to speak. It's also very interesting if you have some sort of a factory and you're getting objects from the factory. It's good to actually ensure that you get the right stuff. Again, this thing here, this line here, what I mentioned, the 1 = 1, is my personal preference. You're more than welcome to ignore it. But that's kind of like how I keep order. So let's run the test. We had 15. We should have 14. Excellent. So we know 100% sure that the manager is the manager, of course, but it also implements the injection aware interface. And that's the most important thing that we need from this test. All right, so let's look again. We did the constructor. All right, so let's see, get CSS and get JS. Let's try those. Let's do. Let's get this. Yeah, let's put a little bit of color into this. So we need to find the get CSS and get JS. So get CSS is this one. We're gonna paste our code here, and then we're gonna change the date. Okay, so we have a new manager. We added, actually let's add CSS. Let's make this the same. All right, so we added two CSS guys, right? Okay, so we need to do actual equals assets get CSS. All right, and what that would return is a collection. Okay, so bear in mind this here, the get CSS is the same as the get CSS here. Now, of course, we can use more advanced techniques in terms of our testing and use what is called a data provider, where the same test can be run again and again and again with the same thing. But for now, just leave it here the way it is. We're going to be fine. So actually, let's call this collection equals assets get CSS. So assert count to come on, collection. All right, so here's what we're doing. We're creating a new manager. We're adding two CSS assets in there, and then we're calling the get CSS method. And we need to make sure that we have two assets in our collection. So let's run the tests. Oh, look, 13. So this one does work. So let's do the same thing with the JS, which is going to be pretty much the same test. And actually, let me show you the. Should I? No, it's gonna require quite a bit of playing around with method names. So I'll just leave it as is. We're gonna have ample opportunities to use the data provider. So I'm gonna go to the JS and do the same thing, but oops, sorry, wrong copy paste. But I'm gonna copy here, and I'm gonna paste in here. All right, so for starters, we need add.js, JS script 2.js, and then we need script 1. So I'm gonna do is add JS here, and then again I'm gonna say, all right, I want to get the JavaScript collection now, and I'm gonna assert that the count is 2. So if I run my test again, I should end up with 12. Yay! All right. So what else do we have? And this is how we're running the tests. This is how we develop different what you call it, different tests and different behaviors and code coverage for the application. Right now we're close to 65 or 67, somewhere there. I haven't seen the latest code cover report. I don't know if it's actually working, i.e. receiving the data from us in order to calculate what it is. But back in the day when I was working on V4 heavily, so that means, let's say September, October, November last year, I would be getting a lot of reports on how the code coverage opened, increased or decreased. Date for JS. What do you mean, Oleg? I didn't get it. All right, until Oleg replies, let's see. Get options, set options. So this is something here that it's in the manager. To be quite frank with you, I don't remember what the options are, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the manager. Where's my manager? Anyway, let's go here. Not this one. It's this guy. All right, so we have these options here, and All right, so we got them in the constructor, and this is an interesting thing that we can do for the constructor. And then we have it down here, so it's getting, and the options are used in the filters. All right, so when we do the output, we gotta make sure that we take into account the options. So here's how I usually do my tests. Change the date for the JS test. All right, hold on a second. Let me copy the date here. Nice catch, my friend. Thank you. And it's not that it's important to change the date, but sometimes you go and you look at different tests, and then you look at the date that you wrote it, or somebody else wrote it, and you go, "Oh my gosh, this was written in 2014 or something," which is really cool. Now, the most important thing for us is not necessarily the author or the sense, it's the issue. So if you see a tag here, a doc block that has an @issue, that links to a GitHub issue, which makes it a lot easier to link one test directly to an issue. And if that test ever fails, that means that you introduced the same issue, which is really awesome to do. So let's look at the manager. So what I was saying is the way I usually do tests is I actually see the code as well. Zephyr is a little bit different because you cannot really work on test-driven development, meaning you write first the test and then the application. You have to do quite a few things before you go down that route. So now that we don't have tests for this and I'm writing the tests for it, what I'm doing is I'm inspecting the code first in order to see what paths we have. All right. So when I get to the point that I'm doing the output, all right, I'm going to make sure that I take into account the filters. So what are the filters? Well, the filters are, where do they come from? All right, they come from collection get filters. So I'm going to make sure that I have a filter, right? And then it will go to this part of the code, right? And then I'm going to make sure that my options are an array or are not an array. So this part of the code will or will not be executed. At which point I am going to have to ensure that the target base path exists or not, or the source base path exists or not in the particular options. And then collection sources and so forth. So you see these little ifs here. These are all paths, and they actually tell you that you can create one test for each of those paths. And if you have one test per path and all of the tests pass, that means that you've covered this whole method and everything is working as expected. Okay, so this is where the filters closes here, and then you have it loops through the assets and does whatever it needs to do. Okay, so that to give you an idea. So this options thing is used in the output. Get set options. There you go. Okay. So what we can do is we're gonna put some random stuff in there because we're not gonna perform any operations in the object. We're gonna just make sure that the get and the set of the options works. Okay, so let's start by doing this. So assets equals new manager, and it's this one. But before we do that, let's say first equals, we're gonna have 1 equals 2, and then 3 equals 4. It doesn't matter the test data at all. We're just gonna make sure that that we get exactly the same data. Actually, let me just change this to data or options actually, to help me understand. So I'm going to take these options and then I'm going to put them in here. Right, so let's do a few more tests here. So I'm going to create a brand new manager, right? And then I'm going to say I assert empty assets get options. So I should get an empty. I haven't passed any options in it. I should get something empty, right? So now, the second assertion that I want is I'm going to pass the options here into the constructor. and then I expect when I call get options to get the $options array. So I'm going to copy this, assert equals options equals get options. Okay, so the first part is I'm starting a brand new manager. I should have no options, right? And then I'm passing something here, and then I should have the same thing when I do get. All right, so let's do here default. Actually, this should be a good idea. Let me see. It's empty. Okay. All right. This is a good idea to use the data provider. I'm going to show you something in a minute. So I'm doing a second assertion here, and then let's do a third assertion where we're going to set different options after we create the object. We're going to set them and then check them again. Okay. So so we're going to create a brand new manager. We're going to make sure that the manager has empty, and then we're going to do assets set options. There. Actually, well, we don't really need it. We tested it up there. All right. So three options here. So default constructor, and then set options. All right. So the default, the first assertion is the default. We have empty options. We have nothing. The second one is we pass something in the constructor and we expect it to get it back with get options. And the third one, we have nothing in the constructor. We call set options, and then we should be getting exactly the same thing in the get options. So if I run my tests, I expect them to pass, and it's now at 11, which means that this particular piece of code executed and run properly. Of course, as I mentioned, we definitely need to make sure that we look at the code and we just test every path that we have. And also, I want to show you here a way that you can actually use what is called the data provider in order to run these tests, these assertions on the same test. And if there's something else that comes up later, you can change the data provider instead of changing the test. So how can I write this thing a little bit easier? So what I usually do is, first of all, I use the annotation data provider. This is something that Codeception understands, and I'm gonna call a method called get examples. Right? That's fine. The second thing I need to do is I need to inject here in my test the example class of Codeception. So example, and it's the second one. It's this guy here. Use Codeception example, and I'm gonna call it $example. Right? Excellent. So I got these two classes. Let me fix the doc block. Okay. All right. So what this will do is it will try and find this method here, the get examples, which should return an array, and then it will run this test for every element of the array. And what the array has, it's up to me. Okay. So let's create that method. It can be private. All right. So this is what we get back from that. Now, remember we said this one needs to have different elements, right? So this is my first element. So you can use numeric indexes and you can use named indexes. I'll just do named here. So text equals empty All right, and then hold on a sec. Did you practice parallel programming? Is it useful for you? Yes. And you're not interrupting. This is not a script that you know. This is not a lesson. It's just a chat, a discussion for everybody. Yes, I do parallel programming a lot. One of my colleagues is in Virginia, and I'm in Delaware. And what we do is we fire up the video chat, and we do parallel programming usually 3 to 4 hours a day, or maybe more. Okay, it is extremely productive because there's very few things that you're missing. So while you're programming, you're actually discussing, you're exchanging ideas, you look at the requirements, and you merge two brains into one requirement. This way you have better understanding, and plus you type, you make a mistake, boom, the other person picks it up for you. We also have the other thing where we could be working on the same thing. We could be doing parallel programming, but one might be writing tests for something and the other one might be doing code. So for me, it's extremely useful. I mean, we can both type quite fast, so I don't care about the typing, but the code quality that comes up is a lot higher than if I was doing it solo. So yeah, absolutely yes for parallel programming. And guys, ask any questions you want. I mean, we're just hanging out here. So all right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say text empty. Okay. What else we need? We need options, and then we're gonna put an empty string, an empty array, and then let's put set. I'll call it set, and then I'll put an empty thing, and you'll see why I need set. Okay. All right. So how can I incorporate this into my tests? Remember, for every element here, the tests are going to run. So let me comment everything out here. So according to this, it's going to run an empty thing, right? So let's have a look. Assets, manager, get set options. All right, you see there's nothing that run. And you see these two little brackets here. It's this payload. It actually tells you what to run. So I want to make this thing a little bit nicer. So what I'm going to do is, since each of those elements is injected into my tests, I'm going to utilize the text one, this one here, and I'm going to make my output a little bit better. This is just preference. You can ignore this if you want to. So example, and the element will be text. So this $example is this array here. All right, and of course I'm accessing it by its name, right? By its key. I could have had 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So if I run the test again, you see here it says empty. This is what it says, right? So the more this array here of the options that you want to execute increases, you can actually utilize this little label thing. Actually, might as well call it label. It might be a little bit easier for people to understand. So there you go. So when my test runs, I can actually see where they fail or not. Okay. So all right. Well, let's do this. So we're going to create a new assets manager. All right. And here's the interesting part. We have options here, and this is something that we will need to pass. If you see this part here, we will need to pass something in here, right? Okay, so let's say options equals example options. So this variable here will contain this empty array that we have down here. And then we're going to pass it into our manager. Now bear in mind it's empty. It's an empty array, so nothing will happen. So what we need to do is I've got to figure out how we can test these. What we need to do is we need to test the get options, right? So expected equals example expected actual equals assets get options, and then assert equals would be expected comma actual. Now we have the word expected here, right? Let's add this in here, and I'll explain what I have with the set there. All right. So if I run this test, my expected would be to be an empty. So this should run fine. There you go. So what happens if I try to run the second test, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now, if you recall here, I used assert empty, right? But because I want to make this being a little bit universal in how it runs, I use the assert equals. So my expected will be an empty array, and the actual will be an empty array, which will be empty, assert empty. Okay, so we've done the default part. Let's try and do this part here. The part where we actually send some data from the constructor, and then we expect it back. Okay, so let me copy this, and then what I'm going to do is here I'm going to create a brand new element. Let me duplicate the code, and then this one means constructor. All right. So, all right. What do we have? We have options. These are the options that will be passed in the constructor. Just shrink this. Okay, so let me just paste that. All right, and then comma. All right, so in the constructor, I'm gonna pass these options because if you recall, we have the dollar options here, and the example is what gets run. So this whole array gets injected into my test. Options is what is blah 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 example options. So it will take this array, and then it will send it into my manager. Right? So what the expected is I expect to see this, right? Okay. So I should, let me copy this. If I run this, oops, something failed. And actually, let me run this with a little bit more on the screen so that you can see. You see here the empty came up here and the constructor came up here. You see the label is working really well. But my second assertion, this little X, says that you asserted equals that an empty array is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So my expected here, this element, which is this part here, is not working. So, all right, what we expect is this. We expect these two to be the same. So if I pass the options and I have expected, these two should be the same, right? Let me just get rid of this thing and continue here. So now if I run the tests, ta-da! So we got it. So now let's have a look how we can do the set options. This one is going to be a little bit tricky, but with PHP's help, we're going to be able to figure it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this again, make a third element, and the third element will be called set options. All right. So if you recall here, we create a manager without, let me just uncomment this. All right, so here we created a manager without anything, right? All right, so let's take out the options because we don't need this. And then we used set options with something. All right, so let's copy our array in the set, right? And then we gotta figure out how we're gonna wire all this together, right? And the way to do this is pretty easy, actually. Remember, we have this element here, set, okay? So I can do if not empty, example, set, then assets, set options, and then I can get that. And then what I'm going to do is expected, blah, blah, blah. All right, so let's explain this a little bit. So we have this small method, small test, and we want to run different iterations to it. And we don't really like spaghetti code, copy pasta. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the data provider, this little guy here, to accept an array that comes from a different method, and then run our test with every element of the array as a source of data. Okay, and the source of data comes from the second parameter, which is called example, and it's codeception/example. That's the class. All right, so we constructed our array here to come back from the get examples. All right, and then each element of the array is an array, and in each of those elements we have certain pieces of data that we want to pass into our test in order to manipulate and check behavior. So the first thing that we did is just cosmetic. We added a new label, so when it comes in here, the example label will actually be printed on the screen. So we got the word empty here, the word constructor here, and once I run it again, you'll see the set options. We have the options element, which will be injected in our manager as a constructor parameter. Then we have the expected, what I expect to get, okay? And then we have a special element called set that we use it to see whether we need to call the set options in the assets manager. So on the first element, it's going to come over here, it's going to start running, it's going to come on this page, in this line here, and it's going to print the word empty, this one here. This one will be empty because example options is an empty array. Then it will check this, and it will never go in there because our set is empty. Then it will pick up the expected, which is an empty array, and then it will pick up as the actual the get options, and it will check if an empty array is an empty array, and then everything would be fine. In the second instance, it will run again. It will print from here the word constructor, and then it will come over here in the options, and it will have 1, 2, 3, 4, this array here. This is what's going to be passed in the constructor. Then it's going to check the set. The set is empty, so this particular piece will never get executed. It will never execute. And then in the expected here, what we expect to get back, it's going to be again the 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it will do the assertion. In the final iteration of this, it's going to come back here. It's going to print the word set options. In the constructor, this here, it's going to pass nothing because we got an empty thing. Then it's going to come over here and it says if it's not empty. Well, in this instance, this element is not empty. So what it's going to do is going to pick it up, and it's going to call set options, and it's gonna send it in there. And the expected is again 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if we run our tests, ta-da! There you go. So we created the same test to test 3 different potential solutions that we might have, or 3 different instances that we could pass data into a method. We created 3 more assertions than before, but we made sure that the get and set options works. It doesn't matter what we passed in the get and set options. That is more prevalent if we're calling the output method or some other methods of the site. But for the get and the set, we know that if we pass something, or an array, we get an array back. If we pass it in the constructor, we get it back. If we call set options, we get it back. And if we pass empty, we get nothing back. All right? So that's this test. And you have seen a little bit the data provider in operation. So let's run the manager tests again. All right, so we got 11 tests from the manager that are not done. Okay. Might try this one, the get collection. I'm just going randomly here, guys, and by all means interrupt me at any given point. Right now, from what I see, it is where is this? Hold on a sec. I need to close some windows. I got tons of them here. So right now it's 19:08. So we've been online for quite a bit, actually. 17, 18, 19. All right. Well, let's stay online for another, I would say, what, 20, 30 minutes or something. It depends on whether you guys want more. And then I can go upstairs, have dinner and all that stuff, and you guys can go and start hacking and coding. But by all means, anything you guys want to talk, just go for it, right? It doesn't have to be Phalcon, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of how things actually evolve in the Phalcon atmosphere. So let's try and put a couple of these guys together. So the get collections test, and we can look at the collections, and then we get the output. The output is going to be the interesting one because it's the one that has the tons of paths. So that's going to be very interesting to decipher, if you like, from the actual code what's going on. And there's this set assets manager set that I have no idea what the hell is doing. So actually, let's do that. Embedded forms. What do you mean about embedded forms? Are you talking about forms within forms? So you have a form and then you have a child form inside, or many more. Let me see here. What was that new feature request? Multiplication, AutoWire. So this is one of them. Embedding blocks with other blocks, forms and forms. Yeah, I thought that you meant that, but here, this is the one. Embedded forms, and it's a shame to actually see this, guys. Oh my gosh. Look at that. It's issue 705. Oh my goodness. So I'm afraid to even open this. Alright, so June 17, 2013 by our friend Mitris from Ukraine, Dimitri. So oh Lord. So yeah, this has been something that has been requested heavily. I don't know if you actually saw this page. Did I close it? Unfortunately, I did. Sorry about that. All right, so at the top of the issue list, if you click on issues here, you will see NFR request list and vote. All right, so if you open this issue, you're gonna see all the NFRs that we have. I'm pretty sure that we're very good at keeping the tally, and we have each of them listed, and when we're potentially gonna fix it. So, for instance, this one, Vault support of embedding blocks into other blocks. This is ancient. I mean, you can see the number of the issue. It's 329, and it was created when, does it say here? January 15, 2013. So yeah, that's a little bit old. And yeah, embedded forms is one of them that was here as well. You saw that it was, again, 2013 created. Yeah, I understand that Symfony has them. I understand that other frameworks do have them as well. My biggest concern is not necessarily building the functionality, but how to make it as extendable as possible. So you did mention this Oleg. It's for validation and other stuff, right? So any form that we can create, which will be, if you think about it, the forms are just simple objects, right? It's just an object that holds some information that could potentially have children objects, and then the children can have subchildren and all that stuff, right? So it's not a difficult thing to create. The problem is, what kind of functionality are you going to offer with that particular object? So in the case of forms, you will need to have elements, right? So a form could have, let's say, an input, a password field, a text box, or select box, and so on and so forth. All right. Immediately that one denotes that you have sub-objects, and each of the sub-forms will have sub-objects too. All right. And I'm using the word sub-objects. It's objects within objects, so of different types. And then on top of that, you're going to have validation, right? And you're going to have sanitization. Okay, so these are two different things. You could also have what it's called a transformers, take me to your leader kind of thing. No, that was from a different movie. Anyway, so imagine a form that has an element, which is a text box. It has a filter, which will be, let's say, strip tags. All right. It could have a mutator or transformer, which will be, let's say, make everything uppercase, and then it will have a validator, right? The one that validates whether you have, let's say, less than 1,000 characters, or it's greater than this and greater than the other. Okay. Now, on top of that, you have exactly what you're talking right now, Oleg, which is the arrays that you get in an input from the user. So in your case, you mentioned pages, en, status, and some other stuff, right? So how can this particular input be taken by the form and its subforms, and then spread out to whatever elements we have, and then sanitize it, transform it, validate it, and so on and so forth. So this is the big problem where you're gonna do it, and we need to have a solid approach of how these things are done. It is something that I want to do. I mean, we started building a lot of these things, and you see here on the page we have age ancient, because we acknowledge that this has been there forever. And yeah, we do have it scheduled for 4.1. So embedded forms would most likely be there. There is quite a bit of work to go in the back end in order to be able to accept what Olex is suggesting. You know, the arrays from the input from the user, let's say a post array, which will then propagate inside the objects and then start populating whatever elements you have in your form and your subforms. So this is the thing that we need to address first. There has been some work that we did towards that goal, and that was with I'll show you here, guys. Where is it? It's in the HTML or HTTP. Which one is it? HTML helper. Actually, I'm in the wrong branch. All right, hold on a sec. Let me copy this here. Yeah, baby. In a little bit. Okay. The little ones are going nuts upstairs. All right, so let me copy the tests here, or commit. All right, let's keep that there, and I want to quickly change to the 4.1 branch. Alright, so if I switch here, you're gonna see different things. We'll get a little bit more going on. So here in the helper namespace, under the HTML, you're gonna see quite a few new classes. And this is 4.1 branch. It's not released, but you're more than welcome to compile it. I mean, it's okay. It's production ready. All of these actually are fully tested. They're 100% and all that stuff. And you do have input also. So this class, for instance, creates a checkbox. This class creates a date, an input date, input email, input file, input hidden, and so on and so forth. Right? This one creates base, the base tag, the anchor tag, body, button, and so on and so forth. All right? And the way you do these guys is you use a tag factory. And the tag factory has all these classes here, right? And it actually creates whatever you need using just one thing, right? So you might be wondering, what the heck are you talking about, man? We're talking about forms. Why did you switch over? All right. So there's a method to my madness. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that, remember we said we have a form, all right, and that form contains different little elements in there. So it will contain a password field, and it will contain a text field and a radio. All right, well, I cannot rely anymore on tag, the Phalcon tag. It's full static, and it's a pain in the rear to reset, and it's so the element kind of like outgrew its usefulness. So we need to enhance it. We need to make something better, something that would be more plug and play everywhere, right? So in the future versions of Phalcon, Phalcon tag will be removed. But what do you do in that case? How do you change it, right? Well, the idea is to change it with this tag factory that would invoke all these guys, and it will create the elements that you require. Okay, so that's great. How does that combine to the form? Well, the idea is that you're going to have one form, and you're going to inject the tag factory in there. And while you're setting up your form, the tag factory is going to be the one that will create the elements for you, just like we do it right now with Phalcon tag. Okay, now granted, when we're creating forms right now, things are extremely transparent. We don't even know that you're using Phalcon tag. It is you only create an email element, an email form element. Well, that email form element is pretty much a wrapper around the tag, Phalcon tag. Okay, so if I want to create an email element, as far as the user is concerned, as far as the developer is concerned, they should be doing exactly the same thing, right? Because if we try to change such a core component without offering the same thing to keep backwards compatibility correct, then all hell will break loose. So in the background, as a wrapper, you're gonna have this Phalcon tag factory that will create your email, right? So instead of tag, you're gonna have the tag factory, right? Developer, well, probably I didn't see anything in my code. I'm using exactly the same class. Now, by doing it this way, not only can we ensure that we save up memory, but what we can do is we can have much more flexibility to extend these objects here and allow them to have their own collections. So imagine a form as being one, the parent, right? And then underneath it has different elements that will use the tag factory. And then also those elements use a filter factory in order to filter data, can accept callables that can do transform data, that's great, and then accept a validation factory that can validate data. So you've done the 4 things that you could do. Well, take that element and multiply it by how many forms you have, and then take that form and multiply it, or even make it as a subform. So if we have that structure as I mentioned, then we will be able to make to add forms and embedded forms a lot easier. It will pretty much be a couple of function calls for us to do it, because every form will kind of like update itself from the input and then just go on its merry way. So there is work that has been done. Okay, so this factory is building up the elements. We got the filter factory that builds the sanitization. I need to do the validator factory, and then once those 3 are done, I'm gonna have to go one level up, start building the form, which will accept either itself with elements or subforms with elements, and so on and so forth. So I hope that was not crazy talk, but I'm just trying to give you an idea that yes, it's in our plan and we actually did think about it, but the problem is, since we don't have a lot of people working on this, progress is slow, but it is steady. We're just moving into that. Okay. Now, something that Oleg mentioned, they removed. Any changes into Phalcon have to be very, very slow and very, very careful in order to ensure backwards compatibility. Anything that we remove has to be in a major version, because we follow Semver. And any changes that are really dramatic towards the framework, for instance, you cannot change the tag component. It's kind of like embedded in every single view, right? So we still have to keep the name, right? It doesn't matter if the functionality of the class that generates the HTML has changed, but the name has to change. It has to remain. The other thing that we were talking about when we were changing the data mapper and the active record and all that stuff, that has to be a whole version and more, in order to ensure that people have enough time, more than enough time, to just work and update their applications, so on and so forth. So very, very conscious about the problems that the community could potentially face by just these refactorings, but we're getting there. It's one of these things. All right, so let me quickly switch to the previous branch so that you guys can see. So we're back here. All right, let's do a push, and we'll see a few things later on this. So you see here in this tag factory. Yes, Mike, the video will be available on on YouTube, by all means. We're also going to upload it on BitChute, Library, and Brighteon. So whichever platform you like, we're going to be there. The links are in the blog post in case you missed them. So you can just go and figure out which platform you like the most, and it will be there for you. All right, so we just did a git push there. Let's go to our branch, and there you go. So this is the need and Phalcon. This is this is my fork, and it started running the tests here, as you see, right? We utilize the GitHub Actions. So the one that really interests me is this one here. Where's this Hangout test? So once this one starts building, that would be perfect. What did we say that we're gonna do here? We did the get options. Didn't we say we're gonna do the get and the set maybe? Yes. All right, so I don't remember the set, but okay. So we have get. What we're gonna do is, let's do the get and the set together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rename this test here to get set. All right. And then I'm going to remove the set. So get set says, let's copy this. So it's get set. And let's do 2020 0319. All right. So I'm gonna do a get and a set. So how does this work? Well, to be quite frank with you, I do not remember. So definitely we're creating a manager, and we probably need to create a collection, and then add the collection in the manager, and then try to get the collection from it. All right. So let's see. Collection equals new collection. It's this one, and I don't think it has anything. It has some. No, it's an empty constructor. Okay. So assets add set. All right. Hangout. Collection. Actually, we do have a has, don't we? No, we don't have a has. Actually, that would be a good idea to make one. To add a has. Okay, so alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, okay, the actual equals assets get hangout, and we're gonna see if that one exists in there. And actually, I think the CSS and the JS get automatically created. I'm not sure. But we're gonna figure it out. Actually, I can do this in one line. I don't need 2 lines. Make it a little bit easier to read. There you go, and then copy that one. So we need JS here, and then CSS. I might be wrong on this test, but hey, you know, blah. The collection does not exist in the manager. So which one though? 39. It's this one here. Get Hangout. All right. Let's go back to the code. That's how I usually fix things. I'll look at the code. So manager, right? So let's figure out where the set is. Okay, so set. It sets in the collections a collection object. So that's fine. That's what we did. And our ID was Hangout. Okay, so let's do the get. Let's find the get now. There you go. So it says if we cannot find the collection in the collections, it doesn't exist. All right. So if I do this, it should run there. There you go. That one works. So the get and the set works, but unfortunately I don't remember how the CSS and the JS get automatically created, so I'm sorry about that. Alright, so what I could do also is I could check that they implement countable and iterator. So how do you do the implements instance of, right? Countable and Oleg, do you have use Phalcon for production? More than 100 per table is crazy. Maybe I should write a blog post about it in the future on the Phalcon blog. Absolutely, Oleg. Anything you need for a blog post, absolutely. I don't think I have an 100 table or so application. In the previous job that I was, we were definitely above 50 tables. Definitely. In the current one, we should be around there in the 70s, 75 tables. And yeah, we use Phalcon in production. I've been using Phalcon in production since, oh gosh, I don't remember when. I mean, it's been definitely since version 2, which is what, 5-6 years now, 7 maybe. And it's not only small applications, you know, the mom and pop shop, so to speak, where you create a little hobby application. We're talking about big time stuff, throughput of thousands and thousands of requests per second, and so on and so forth. So yeah, absolutely, I do. So if you want to create all and anybody else, of course, if you want to create a blog post, by all means send us an email to team@phalcon.io, and we'll definitely do it for you. Oh, there you go. So we wrote this test, and now we know that our collection implements countable and iterator. So we just did the get and set test here, and we just made another one, and we just dropped it into 10. Test failed. Yay. I love it when they fail. Okay, the setup cache. Alright, this has nothing to do with us. And this has nothing to do with the test. The test actually passed. If you look at this, PHP 7.4, where's the unit tests? And these are the unit tests. This is what we've been working on, guys. So, you know, some of these S's became little dots, and you know, we're getting into that. These are close to the end of the run. These are, I would say, usually either the dispatcher ones or the image ones, but these top ones are usually the asset ones because they're at the top. It goes alphabetically. So looking at the little list, you see the first ones are us, right? So the set test, you can just get it out of the way. Get set options, we did it, and we're just gonna move on that, and we're gonna figure out the get collections in a minute. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to commit this code. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a git push, and I'm gonna issue a pull request so that the other people, the other maintainers for Phalcon can see my code and check it out and say, hey, you know, we like it or we don't like it. Okay. Now, as I do see my run here, that these failures have nothing to do with what we did. If you see one of them, it says, you know, setting up the cache is a problem, so that probably has something to do with GitHub Actions. So I did one more test on get and set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the main C Phalcon this, and what I'm going to do is actually let me do it. You might not have this feature yourselves. I'm a maintainer, so I don't really know whether this one is available for you. So let's do it the other way around. So I'm in here in my fork. So need and C Phalcon is the fork of Phalcon, right? We're just gonna ignore the top part. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new pull request, right? I'm gonna click this little button. So first things first. We're just checking this side. Hey, it's the tests Hangout. Great, that's what we did. And then it's gonna go to version 4, the version 4 branch. So we select the version 4, doop, there. So now it's comparing both and says, hey, you know, I can merge this, all right? So what we do is we start filling this thing up, and we say, okay, this is enhancement. Actually, I'm gonna put testing. And then the issue, remember that when I created the branch, I put T. It's because this T actually helps me know what the issue number is by keeping the branch. So what I do is hash 13655. You see where it says refactor unit test, add more test. And then, yep, I know the contributing guidelines. So again, I wrote them. Yeah, we don't have any, and yeah, we wrote tests. I'm not gonna play around with a change log. I'm not gonna do anything with the documentation. Added more tests with the community during the Hangout. Yay. Alright, so I'm gonna create the pull request. That's all I need. That's all there is to it. Because I'm a maintainer, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the testing thing here. I think you guys can do that too with the label. Might be wrong, but so I'm gonna tag it to 4.6 and text testing, and then I'm gonna put, come on, oh yay, the alarm is there. Alright, sorry about this. I don't know if my daughter is cooking or something like that, but it triggered all the alarms. So I'm gonna set it to Phalcon roadmap and working on it, and I did that. I don't think you guys have access to the Phalcon roadmap, but I'm just trying to make sure that this thing gets into the cards that we have done. Okay, so this is for 4.06. This is testing, and then at some point I'm gonna merge these into the 4.1 code as well, so that we keep pushing everything. All right, so what's gonna happen is this thing is gonna start running all of these tests, all of these runs with Travis and Appware and GitHub Actions and all that stuff. And at some point tomorrow, I guess, when the guys wake up, I mean, you guys are up very late, the ones in Europe. It's getting real late there. So the guys are going to have a look at it, and then they're going to either approve or deny or whatever. They're going to give us some feedback, as I did with Anton earlier, and then this is going to be merged. And there you go. That's the contribution to Phalcon. And I've been talking for more than 2 hours. All right, guys. I think it's time to Needham, what do you think about GitHub support? I mean, it doesn't show costs. Getting support from GitHub, or you supporting GitHub, or us supporting users using GitHub? Not sure what you mean about GitHub support. Just get rid of some of the crazy emails that I've been getting. Open collective show costs. Are you talking about the sponsors? Okay, right. You're talking about this one, right? This here, right? Now, all right. You're not gonna see any costs in GitHub. You're gonna see all the costs, or the expenses. Let me put it this way. You're gonna see all the expenses in Open Collective. All right. So here's how this works. All right, we started with Patreon, and then Patreon was just like blah. And then we found Open Collective, which was kind of like in its infancy at the beginning, but they did really, really good work, and they have helped a lot of people. So Open Collective is here for those that are interested, and then it's /Phalcon. And it actually tells you what this project is, how many sponsors it has, and how much money does it have. So it says, okay, you can make a one-off donation, you can put in $2 here, and then you can become a sponsor or whatever. And you see some people here, right? Okay, so the top financial contributions: Savvy Works, Agency Analytics, Max Castro, Adrian, and so on and so forth. All right. So it actually shows you to Phalcon, for instance, here that we have $13,000. Believe it or not, we're very, very stingy. We don't like spending money, but we don't like wasting money. Let me put it this way: if it is for something good, for instance, if and we've mentioned this before. If, let's say, a really solid C developer comes over and says, guys, I want to help you with Phalcon, but I will need so much money, right? I wouldn't say no, right? We would love the community to contribute just like that, just because we do it, or just the same way we do it. But if there's going to be somebody that is going to help us get out of a bad situation, meaning push the project forward, hell yeah, we're going to pay, right? Just to give you an idea. So here you see, Barry, Ruslan, Kevin, and so on and so forth, they actually contributed some things. And then you can view all the transactions and then view the expenses as well, right? So credits and debits. Okay, now for every credit and debit, you have the view details and you can look at the invoice. Right, so this is Open Collective, everything is fine. Now, let's go back to the question that Oleg posted. We also have this, which is GitHub and the sponsorship from GitHub. And we have this page here, so GitHub sponsors Phalcon and all that. Now, we managed to get into the GitHub sponsorship early. We were one of the first ones that got in. We talked a lot with GitHub. We managed to set them up. Actually, we got kudos from GitHub because we were pretty much one of the very few projects that the setup took some like 10 minutes and we didn't have any problems. Now, we did mention this numerous times before that our goal, our very long time goal, is to create a company just like Sensio Labs with Symfony, just like Swul has one, Zend or Laminas used to have one. So you have the framework as bringing people in, and then you offer solutions to companies. That would be our wildest dream, and you know, we can start working for ourselves. But the problem is we can't right now. Okay, not until we have a standard stream of money. So because we don't have a company in the US, an actual company, that means that we cannot get money from GitHub anywhere. But here's the key. Open Collective, I don't know if you notice this up here. You see here where it says fiscal host, Open Source Collective 501c6. This is a legal company in the United States. And what we have done with GitHub is when GitHub takes money, right, then they, from me, from you, from whoever, they take it and they deposit it inside Open Collective. So any money from here ends up here. And it ends up in this account here, the Open Source Collective account for Phalcon. So this number that you see here, 13,000 or whatever it was, when the next time that GitHub deposits money, it's going to increase, right? And as a result, we do not use GitHub to submit expenses. We use only Open Collective. This way, people can actually go to Open Collective and see the whole financial reporting without having to go to two different spots. Right? So Open Collective, if you want to have a look at our financials, by all means, if you want to use GitHub to contribute to the project, by all means, you can use the sponsorship. It will end up in Open Collective. Or if you use Open Collective or you like Open Collective, by all means. But there's only one account. That's where our money goes. And that's where we say spend it from. I hope that answers the whole question. It was a little long-winded, but I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay. I just wanted to explain the whole situation. Where was it? Close this. Alright, so some of this appears to have failed. Alright, this is a Mac OS. Some Windows, and this failed. I don't know why. Yeah, that's perfectly fine, Oleg. If you prefer GitHub to contribute to this project financially, by all means, you can do either. But GitHub for now does not act as a means to show expenses, to submit reports and all that. For us, it works as another way, a convenience way for certain people that do not like or do not want Open Collective. I know quite a lot of developers have pro accounts with GitHub, so it's really easy for them to just say, you know what, I got my pro account, I might as well contribute to this open source project, and then the money ends up, whatever it ends up, it ends up in Open Collective. For other projects that do have legal entities and companies in the US, whether this is just you as a developer, it would apply to me because I live in the States, or somebody else, then they do not need anything. They get the money straight up from GitHub to their account. But what we did is, because we don't have that company and we don't want to spend the money to make the company, at least for now, that money ends up in Open Collective, and then that's where you see the whole fiscal picture of Phalcon. Okay, so this thing actually failed for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, the remote name could not be resolved. All right. So this guys has nothing to do with us, with the work that we did. As you can see up here, we're looking at our pull request. We have code coverage and all that. These have passed, and these are Linux tests at the top, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4. I know that these Mac OS tests failed because of something going on with the cache on GitHub Actions, and this one, I've seen this fail a couple of times. It's a missing something. I don't remember what it is. I gotta ping root to figure this out. And then this continuous integration failed because of a download state. So far our pull request is great, guys. We just added a few more tests. What was it? 10 tests or something. Look, we changed 7 files. There you go. 7 tests that we did. There you go. That's awesome. It's freaking awesome. All right, boys and girls, thank you so much. It's time to wrap it up. It's been it was supposed to be kind of like a small thing, but we've been here for 2.5 hours. There's 8 of you that have been here since the beginning, I think. All right, guys, stay safe. Wash your hands, as they say. Hanging in there. We're here from Phalcon. We'll try and do whatever we can to make your lives a little bit easier. Maybe we can write some more tests, engage more with the community, have a random Ask Me Anything chit chat. We'll see how it goes. We're going to have another one on Saturday or Sunday. I'll have to look at my schedule and what's going on with Rude and the other guys. But yeah, stay safe. And we're all going to get through this craziness in this world together, okay? Keep calm and keep coding. And thank you, everybody.